Next. In a couple of weeks, he will be have his 41st anniversary. The time he got checked out in the first Mustang. 2,000 hours. He has flown a number of other aircraft. Never listed this one. He flew the Stearman, P-51D Valiant, which is a trainer in World War II, T-6 Texan, P-40 Warhawk, P-53 Cobra, T-28 Trojan, the SPD Dauntless, the P-51 Avenger, the P-51 Rancho, C-47 Skytrain, and the Val, the Japanese Val dive bomber. Wow. Tom is the new director of flight operations on Springs Air. And he also works part-time at the Pittsburgh A's development. I'd like to wear this.
I'm hiding behind you. I'm hiding behind you.
I'd like to please welcome Tom.
Thank you, Patrick. Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. Gary, where's Gary? Thanks for inviting me, Gary. It's a pleasure to be here. Get my computer going here. 1 second. I titled my talk this morning, The Road to Reno. And there are 3 kind of sub-stories that kind of intersect in 2017 that allowed us to go to Reno. Can you hear me okay? Okay. All right. So anyway, so I grew up in a small town called Lander, Wyoming, and the reason that was significant to me was I had a great opportunity to have a lot of really excellent aviation experiences there. I was given a book when I was about 10 years old. This little book here. This thing still on? I'm not hearing any echo. Anyway, so I'm about an 8, 9, 10-year-old kid, and I'm reading everything I can find about aviation. So I'm reading about the Flying Tigers, Pappy Boynton, the Bow Wow Black Sheep, and I'm just so enamored with it. My dad and I are building model airplanes all through the winter. We're flying them in the summer and the spring, which in Wyoming is kind of a short period of time, but it was fantastic. So my folks gave me this book. This book has 9 chapters in it, and it has one chapter about just some extraordinary aviators. So there's the Wright brothers, there's Eddie Rickenbacker, Charles Lindbergh, Amelia Earhart, Jimmy Doolittle, and Joe Foss. There's a hunting event in my hometown called the One-Shot Antelope Hunt. Anybody hear of it by chance? Okay. They invite 8 teams of 3 people to come into town in September. And they get 1 bullet to kill an antelope as part of this team. 5 teams are from the surrounding states. The governor is a leader of the team. He has 2 of his buddies that come. Aerospace team and sometimes a celebrity team. In 1964, Jimmy Doolittle himself came to that event. And my dad took me to the airport, and guess what? He signed my little book here. I can pass it around if you guys want to see. Anyway, just kind of pass that around if you'd like. And then a couple years later, Joe Foss, who was the governor of South Dakota, came to town, and I got to meet him as well. And so these guys were my heroes. So imagine going up to the airport, and Jimmy Doolittle gets out of an airplane, and there's only like 5 people around. And so I got to meet him and spend like 5 minutes with him, just fantastic stuff. Then I started watching 12 O'Clock High, which came out about, I don't know, 66, something like that. Oh, very good. Thank you. All right. Anyway, so I started watching 12 O'Clock High. How many of you guys remember 12 O'Clock High? Okay, right. Okay, so you understand exactly the thrill. The P-51s, the B-17s flying around. It was absolutely fantastic. So I'm just becoming more and more enamored with aviation. I'm going to the airport every Saturday. I'm watching airplanes. I'm getting rides in airplanes. It was just so great. So anyway, get my slides back in sync here. So I got my license in 77. I went to my first Reno in 1978. And I know some of the guys this morning started going in 64. How many of you guys have gone to Reno? This thing is just not helping me here. Anyway, so I go to my first Reno, 1978, and I get a pit pass. And so I'm going out in the pits. I meet Steve Hinton, John Crocker, Dan Martin, all these guys, and it was fantastic. All the medals off the airplanes, they're fiercely working on them. And guess what? There were 45 unlimiteds up there that year, trying to make a field of 24. So these guys were going for it because they had to qualify to get in the race. Otherwise, no money, no glory, right? So so that was fantastic. So I'm thinking, man, that's like in 1970. I'm thinking, I gotta do this. I really want to find a way to do this. So that's kind of in the back of my mind for a long time. So I joined the Confederate Air Force, went to Reno in 79. That was the year Steve Hinton crashed, but he survived. So good year, bad year. I went down to Harlingen, Texas in 1979. Anybody go down there when they were doing the air shows in Harlingen? Okay, so you guys know what I'm going to talk about. 120 airplanes at Harlingen, Texas during the big air show, what they call it, air power demonstration. PTs, BTs, ATs, light bombers, medium bombers, 5 B-17s, a B-29. It's like, holy crap, that was unbelievable. So I joined right away. I paid him my $180, whatever it was. I became a colonel. I went up to the guy. Hey, I want to fly with you guys. This is so great. I had 700 hours. The guy says, how many hours do you have in a T6? Well, none. Son, you need T6 time before you can get involved with us. Okay, great. So what I didn't realize was at that time in 79, the pilots flying all those airplanes, they were World War II vets. They were 65 years old. I mean, they were younger than I am right now. So anyway, but one of the funniest things that happened to me that weekend was I was staying at a hotel. It was called the Bahia Mar, I think it was called, on South Padre Island. So right on the Gulf of Mexico. Friday morning at about 8 o'clock, I hear a bunch of airplane noise. I'm on the 7th floor in a tower. There's another tower 500 feet to the west of us. And guess what? Howard Pardue, a Mustang and a P-40, came through between those towers doing dawn patrol. I'm on the 7th floor looking down into Howard Pardue's cockpit when he went by. It's like, holy crap, and that was unbelievable. I mean, talk about just, wow. So that was really, really great. So anyway, so I start building time, and I'm thinking about this T6 thing this guy told me about. So I'm living in San Jose at the time.
Batteries.
All right. So I'm living in San Jose at the time, and there was a group in a town called Hollister, about 40 miles south, and the group was called the California Warbirds. They had a BT-13, a T6, a Hellcat, and a Mustang. So I started hanging out with them like 79, 80, something like that. 12-ish guys in that group. And one of the guys retired out of flying, and I was able to buy his membership. I was able to buy his membership, an equity spot in those airplanes. Give me a guess on what I paid to get into that group that let me fly a T6 for $40 an hour dry and a Mustang for $125 dry. Give me a guess on what equity would cost to do that. $3,200. I mean, can you imagine $3,200? That was amazing. So anyway, I know, right? So I checked out in their T6. It took me about 8 or 9 months because we lost an engine, had to replace an engine, everything else. I got that done. And then the group had a requirement of 50 hours minimum in the T6 before you could qualify for a Mustang checkout. So I knocked out about 70, 80 hours. We had a guy, We had a guy named Ellsworth Getchell. Any of you guys remember him? Big warbird guy in California. He had a Hawker Sea Fury. Anyway, he was the group's check pilot. And it took about a year to be able to get our schedule synced up because he would literally leave the entire summer. He'd take the Sea Fury to Oshkosh, Abbotsford, and he would just kind of he was a TWA captain. So he would deadhead back and forth and just keep flying the airplane. So finally, in February of '83, I got my chance to fly the Mustang. And there weren't any TFs back then. So now guys go to Florida, they fly the back seat with the dual controls and the front seat and all that. So my checkout was 25 hours at the kitchen table with him going through all the systems, emergencies, talking through takeoffs, talking through landings. Then we went and got in the airplane. I'm in the back seat, and he took me through a maneuver that just was, I still remember it like it happened yesterday, and it's been like 40 years ago. So it's a VMC demo in a single engine airplane. So that sounds like a funny thing to say, but what we did is we went up to 5,000 feet, gear down, flaps 50, coming downhill, and the Mustang has a go-around limit power setting of 46 inches and 2,700 RPM. And so it's in the book. We beat the heck out of it. He's going to show me why that's the case. So we're 5,000 feet coming downhill. He takes the throttle from cruise setting. He takes his thumb and his hand, pushes the throttle and the prop up to 3,000 RPM and 56 inches, something like that. And the airplane starts to pitch and it starts to roll to the left. Next thing you know, he's got the stick all the way to the right, longeron. He's got the right foot, right rudder buried all the way to the floor. Airplane is just doing that. And he goes, watch this. Thumb, throttle, pulls it back to 46 and 2,700. Airplane goes this way. I mean, unbelievable. So that's a very important illustration. They say a picture's worth 1,000 words. That's worth like 10 chapters to me. So that's a big deal on a go around. 46 and 2,700 inches. That's all we ever want to do. So that's a T6 that we had. That was the first Mustang I got to fly. That was the one that was owned by the California Warbirds. Got to fly a PBY Catalina for a while. That was really fun. Mostly right seat, but yeah, really fun airplane. So for about 10 years, I'm flying air shows like crazy, just trying to build time, having a great time. And this was so crazy because I was a member of the CAF. And so I would fly the PBY, like pick a place, Madeira. I'd get a ride back to Hollister, get the P-51, fly it back, get a ride in 182 up to Oakland and bring their T6 down. And then all weekend long, I'm just flying airplanes. I mean, it was fantastic, right? Just so much fun. So anyway, so I bought 3 BT-13s in 1985. I got one nice flyer out of the 3. That's at Oshkosh a whole bunch of years ago. And then I bought an SNJ-4 project that came out of Paraguay. I don't know how it got to Paraguay, but a bunch of them came out of there. So we still have this airplane. Took 3 years to restore it and get it going. And so super nice airplane. I started flying at Planes of Fame in 2001 as the primary ride pilot. And what that meant is Steve Hinton and all of his pals were burned out on doing rides because they were doing 5, 6 rides every Saturday. It's important revenue for the museum. They just need somebody to do them. So that was me for like 15 years. And so just meet great people. It's a fun thing to do. So I just kept building time, like 50 to 75 hours a year, easy every year flying the Mustang. Got to fly some other airplanes. That was actually the Planes of Fame's very first Mustang. It's called Spamcan. They bought it in 1957 out of McClellan Air Force Base, full of gas, so 180 gallons of fuel, today of which is going to be, what, $1,500 just for the gas? Guess what Ed Maloney paid for that airplane in 1957? $800. And they flew it to Ontario. It was a flyer for $800. Unbelievable. So I got to fly, Planes of Fame. I got to fly the P-40, the SBD, TBM, B-25, and a bunch of other airplanes. So just, a dream for a kid, a dream for any of us, right? And we all have that same kind of dream with aviation. So part 2 of the story, getting to Reno. So in 2014, I got a call from Matt Nightingale, who's a brother from another mother. He has a shop at Chino called Cal Aerofab. He had just finished doing a restoration of Bunny, which is the Palm Springs Air Museum's airplane that we have. Matter of fact, how many Palm Springs docents and stuff are here today? Oh my gosh, that's fantastic. Well, hey, thanks to everybody for what you do. That's fantastic. So super good. Okay, so Bunny is special to all of us, particularly to these folks too. So in 2014, Bunny starts flying, and Matt needs somebody to put some test time on the airplane. So I absolutely, man, I'm in. So I fly the airplane probably 8 or 9 hours around Chino. We're debugging it, getting all ready to go. And then the airplane is delivered out here to Fred in the museum. And that was, I thought that was the last of that, because I'm flying at Planes of Fame, and they had a pilot out here to fly, and I don't know what's going on. Anyway, so I get a call, and Fred asked, hey, can you come out on Saturday? I got a call, this is like Thursday. Get a call, can you come out on Saturday and do a demo flight for us in Bunny? We're going to have like an unveiling, we're going to have cake, we're going to break a bottle of champagne on the gear, all this stuff. Yeah, sure. So because it was such last minute, I flew our SNJ out for transportation. I didn't have anybody with me. So that was a really important part of the story. So here's Bunny, the way it rolled out in 2014, 2015. And Bunny, I don't know that she had a swimming suit on in the war. I think it might have just been a lady on the side. But Bunny was Bob Friend's girlfriend / fiance when he went to war. And so they came back, they were married, I think, for 30 years, if I remember right. So, really great story. And so Bob Friend, for those of you that may not have known him, Tuskegee Airman, probably one of the nicest, most magnetic personalities of anybody I have ever met. And so I arrive at Palm Springs. Fred Bell says, okay, here's the deal. I'd like you to take off at 9:30. I'd like you to be back in the break at 10. We're going to have our ceremony, all that stuff, and then you're done. It's so short and sweet. So, and by the way, Bob Friend at that time is 95 years old. So as we're climbing in, he says, hey, by the way, don't do anything stupid. We don't know how healthy he is. So just be easy on him. Okay. So, all right. So anyway, so we taxi out, take off. We're going down toward the Salton Sea. We got about 30 minutes to play. And so he keys the microphone. Guess what he says? Hey, can we do some aerobatics? I haven't done any aerobatics in years and years. I loved it. So I'm kind of going, oh, great. So it's like, well, are you up for it? I just met the guy 10 minutes ago. I have no idea, right? Oh, I'm fine. It'd be great. So okay, pitch up. We do like a lazy 8 and a wing over, and he is cheering so loud. He's not even keying the mic. He's cheering. I can hear him over the engine noise of my helmet. So okay, so barrel roll. Here we go. So we're just we're doing all this stuff, having a great time. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh crap, we got to get back to the airport. It's like 10 to 10 already. So we beat the feet back to the airport. Does a great speech. We have cake. We have all this stuff. It's a great time. And then so we're standing there, and I asked his daughter, who is his driver and kind of his handler, I said, where do you guys live? We live in Irvine. Hey, great. Do you think he'd want to fly the SNJ with me back to Chino, and you could pick him up on the way home? Well, if he wants to, that'd be fine with me. So anyway, there we are in the Mustangs, right? They got that's taken off in Bunny. Here he is in the back of Bunny, and here he is in the T6. I asked him if he wanted to fly the T6. He said, that'd be great. Haven't flown yet. So, fully cockpit, backseat, the whole thing. I say, Bob, we have 2 hours of fuel. You can do anything you want. Well, let's try and be at Chino before we run out of gas at 1:30. Okay, that's great. So we're flying around. We went over Redlands. We're over San Bernardino. We're down to Lake Matthews. We're all over the place. Did a little bit of acro. He's in the back flying. And the guy was a test pilot between the wars. This guy could fly. He was a little stove up walking around, but the guy could fly like crazy. And so I'm just sitting up there and I say, just tell me what you want to do. So I'm just kind of watching. We're flying all this stuff around. And so my next job was this. So I've got my cell phone. I'm just trying. I bet I took 15 pictures trying to get that picture, because you're like doing this. You got the rollover bar and just trying to get him. But anyway, finally got a picture of him, and the guy was fantastic. We got back to Chino, had a nice time. I took him over to Flo's, and I said, just tell me some stories. And so he starts talking about the civilian pilot program. He learned how to fly in a Champ or something before the war. He ends up in Tuskegee. And it was a pretty white-driven school, even though most of the guys there were black or some were Jewish, whatever. And he told me the story about how he got a 97 on his overall exams. So it was marching and field duty, it was flying, it was academics. He got a 97. They accused him of cheating. Nobody can do that well. So they made him do the test again, and they got a 98. So he kind of showed him what was up. So anyway, so now we get to the Reno piece. So we've got a kid going nuts in 78 to fly at Reno. Now we've got Bob Friend, a super historical guy, and we've got Fred Bell at the museum. And the museum has basically just started flying airplanes. They had not flown a lot before like 2015. So at 2015, C-47, T-28, P-63, now the Mustang, T-6 would be coming later on. So they'd end up flying like 7 or 8 airplanes. So I'm thinking, you know what? This place needs to tell their story. And what better place to tell it than at Reno? You've got all the social media. You've got 125,000 people in the stands. You got the printed magazine people. And what a great way to roll out Palm Springs story that, hey, we're flying. We're going to be on the same level as Plains of Fame or other places. Just think, every time Bunny goes around, I mean, it's not the best name for a racer, Bunny, but anyway, but every time we'd go by, they would announce, hey, there goes Palm Springs, whatever. So I wrote a proposal to Fred Bell, and I went through all these things thinking about why it would be a good idea to go to Reno. Gave it to him thinking maybe a 30%er. And he calls back the next day. I like this idea. I think we should do it. Let me talk to the board of directors. Calls me back in like a week. He says, hey guys, we're going racing. It was like, wow, fantastic. So they put up a GoFundMe page to start, they start, getting all these donations. There's a picture of Bunny in 2017 going by. So it was really great. So as part of the Reno process, we talk, everybody knows Reno, right? Fastest motorsport, fly left, fly low, all of that. So super fun. Probably one of the funnest things I ever did. It was absolutely great. So it's 4 days of racing. It's an 11-day commitment for the team. So you're going up there like on Thursday before the whole race week. You come back the following, 2 Mondays away, you come back. So it's a big deal. It's intense. It's rewarding. It's amazing. So I'm going to try and tell you a little bit more about that. So a couple things about the races themselves. So you've got to qualify at 275 miles an hour to be able to make the unlimited class. So they're trying to be pretty restrictive, trying to make a good race. 500 hours, formation fast card, all this kind of stuff. And then this 4,500-pound weight. So that's kind of interesting because there are some sport class guys that go faster than we do, no doubt about it. But the big thing is the wake turbulence behind it. Like, for example, a Sea Fury. I got behind it one time, and I tell you what, it was the scariest thing I've ever experienced. I'm behind a Sea Fury. I'm trying to stay a little up and wide. Got in his wake. The airplane was totally out of control for about 4 seconds. The stick is, I got both hands on the stick. The stick is going back and forth. I'm like a cork, like going over Niagara Falls. All I could think was top rudder. I got to get top rudder in it. So I top ruddered up, finally popped out of it. But we're only 50 or 75 feet off the ground. I mean, that is really scary stuff because you're just along for the ride. So part of that 4,500-pound weight is to try and keep a Lancer or some smaller, lighter airplane out of that situation because it was horrible. Anyway, so Reno did a really good thing. I think around 2012, they started a school in June called the Pylon Racing School. So if you're a rookie or if you haven't flown within the last 3 years, you have to go to this school. And the school is really, really good. They take you all about the racing. There's 50 pages of the rule book of Reno. It just doesn't seem possible, but all the stuff about passing and tech and on and on and on. So you've got to know all those rules, otherwise you're going to have a problem. FAA, of course, is there. They do a lot of stuff on physiological things, like with G-locking and all that kind of stuff. And so, you're up there flying, you're trying to learn all this stuff. It's almost like you feel like you're drinking out of a fire hose because there's just so much information they're throwing at us. So a lot of inspections of documents and airplanes. And, so the first 3 days, you're basically in a class the entire time. And all you want to do is get out there and start flying, but you got to go through all the class stuff first. So so finally, when you get to fly, they actually do a pretty vigorous checkout. So you got a guy and two guys in a Sea Fury. One guy's a check pilot. One guy is the class president. Two or three other airplanes with you, and they start playing with you. So normally formation is kind of gentleman formation, right? So you're planning, you're going to roll in, you're going to roll out, you're going to brief, everything's going to be following a plan. These guys are trying to blow you off. So you're flying along and you're watching, all of a sudden the guy just banks into you. So you got to try and get down. You're trying to get out of the way, goes away from you. So they're just trying to mess with you because it's not gentleman formation. It's like aggressive in your face stuff, but formation rules apply. I mean, that guy's ahead of you, he's your leader. So you still gotta kind of face him. One of the things they do, and they just say it's just racing, is I'll show you a little diagram in a minute. On the race course, there are places that you cannot go out of bounds. They have houses infringing, they've got a deadline of the runway. And so what'll happen is if you're following somebody and you're rolling into a corner and they see you're there, they're gonna go loose on the turn and try and push you over the deadline. They're gonna try and push you out so you disqualify. If that happens, you get a black flag, you gotta come off and land. So you always gotta be ready to roll up if that happens. You can't just go like an echelon turn, you gotta roll up and get out of the way. So there's a lot of stuff just kind of going on that's just racing, that's allowable. You can pass underneath, you can pass inside. It pisses people off, but if they leave you a door, you can do it. It's just part of the game. The next thing they make you do, which is fairly difficult in the Mustang, is you have to do it on command, half roll and reverse, both directions. So you're flying along, they slow it down to about 220. Mustang likes it at 280, 300. They slow you down to 220. You cannot pitch up, you have to level flight. They say, okay, go, race 62, give me a half roll and reverse to the left. You got to pop it upside down, have you fly maybe 3-4 seconds inverted. You cannot gain or lose any altitude. And then they bring you back and then they say, okay, and now go the other direction, flip it the other way. Now Mustang will fly inverted nicely like this, not hugely nicely because it's got a really small elevator, but that's a very demanding maneuver. So we practice the heck out of that so we get those good, because if you lose like 50 or 80 feet, they flunk you. And here's why. Back to that Sea Fury story. They've had guys get flipped upside down numerous times up there, and you've got to be able to stop it and either come back the way you came from, or you got to roll all the way around and not lose 50 feet and hit the ground. So it's a very serious thing. So there's a lot of G tolerance stuff we do. We have to do 10 laps, and we have to. The idea is G the airplane up and get your own G forces, your G tolerance building up. A lot of emergency dead stick landing practice. That's why I want my slider. So here's a picture of the course. The unlimited course is that outer section, and it's 8.2 miles. And we're flying. Bunny's flies about 350 as far as the actual speed around the course. Our lap times with the turns are probably like 300 something. So the problem with a stock airplane at Reno is that if the airplane pops on the north side of the course, airplane blows up, pull the gear down speed, which is 170. We only gain about 1,500 feet altitude. And you're down at 50, 80 feet, something like that. So you're only going to get to 1,600 feet. And you got to try and get back. You got to try and get back to this. That's not working. You got to try and get back to one of these runways down here. You can see those little triangles right there. So sometimes if you pop in the wrong place as a stalker, you have a really hard time getting back to someplace you can land and use the airplane tomorrow. So it's just kind of the way it is. So anyway, so what they do in practice is you're flying around and they'll say, okay, race 62, Mayday. And they mess with you. So you might be all the way over here up where it says legend. So you have to slide the prop and throttle back, pitch up as high as you can get, turn the inside. Trying the runway over here the runway, the diagonal runway right there is actually 9,500 feet long. So if you can get to it and get on the ground, great, you're golden. So if you're down on the south side of the course, you have a lot of options. On the way north side, not so many. And so you really got to pay attention to the wind. And so anyway, I call this pre-Reno. So we've gone to the PRS, we've passed, everything's golden. Now we're back here in town and we're working our butts off making sure the airplane is ready. You don't want to get up there and have a problem that you could have prevented. So we're going through everything, brakes, engine compartment, propeller, all the cooling system, everything else, making sure everything is good. And then we have to fly down here to get data. So we're down here in the summer at 100 and some degrees, blasting around over the airport at race power, trying to make sure that we've got enough cooling and everything's going to be working fine. And that's Bunny's biggest issue as a radiator. It's a good radiator, but doesn't give you that much extra cooling when you're running tons of power for an extended period of time. So that was kind of our concern. It worked out okay. You also have to certify 5G turning maneuvers so the FAA is happy. The airplane's not going to come apart. All right, next thing is logistics. So imagine this. We ended up taking 3 airplanes this last couple of years up to Reno. And so the strategy is you take every spare part you can find so you don't need it. So you're taking starters and brakes and carburetors and magnetos and governors, everything you can think of. And, so we've got like 3 trailers of parts and stuff we take up there. And our goal is to be able to help other people because we've been very blessed at Palm Springs, have a lot of great equipment and just stuff. And so, we go up there, we've got a team of like, I don't know, 20 people probably are up there helping us do all this stuff. And so it was super good. The P-51 when you actually lost a starter, but we had one, so that was really, really good. So now we're actually going to Reno. So now it's September, we're flying up there. The first thing that happens now is we have to go through a tech inspection. And so they have a couple of guys from Planes of Fame that are mechanics that are super, super, super good at this stuff. And so all the metal comes off the airplane. They do a complete tech inspection, and these guys are good. They're checking for everything. Now, if you have the right attitude like we do, we like that. We welcome that. Some teams are like, they don't want anybody poking around their stuff, right? So anyway, next thing, safety equipment, really important to have all the right gear, boots and a Nomex suit and gloves and a mask and oxygen and everything you can. Just make sure that if you do have a problem that you're gonna be as best as you can to deal with it. There was a Sea Fury flying around maybe 2 years ago. His canopy shattered. He's flying around at 380, 390 miles an hour. Kaboom! The whole canopy just came out of the frame, and he had his visor down. And he told us at the meeting after that, he said, if I hadn't had that visor down, there was so much crap and parts flying around, I probably would have been blinded. So just those kind of stories, just to kind of, okay, so take off, put the visor down, even though I had sunglasses, right? So the qualifying process at Reno is very interesting. So they only allow 4 airplanes actually on the course at the time that you qualify, and you cannot qualify coming out of a dive lap. And so there are various ways to come on the course. Most of the time we dive down from the east side, and you get down, you come out of the skies, dive on the course, and you're making your laps. And so what you do is you call for the clock, and you say, okay, the timer race 62 requesting the clock. And you'll be on the north side of the airport. They'll call back, okay, race 62, how many laps? You can do 1 lap or you can do 2 laps. Most guys do 2 just so they can make sure they get a good run. If you cut a pylon, you disqualify, and you don't get a qualification that day. That gets to be scary because you only have 2 days to qualify, and you have only a couple hours within the qualifying days. So if you bust a pylon and don't qualify, you're really risking possibly not being able to race. So anyway, so you get the clock, you run your lap as fast as you can, and you have to. And when you go across the home start pylon, you've got to be between 50 and about 100 feet, 75 feet, something like that, because they photograph everything. So if you pitch early and go by, and they don't see you going by, they can't confirm your time. So another little thing just to kind of keep in our mind. So you go by at pylon height, and then you push off and you go high, and it works pretty good. We were doing this one day, and Mark Moody was flying at one of the airplanes, and he went out and he came around at about, we're flying maybe, I don't know, 70, 72, 73 seconds. He came back at about 55 seconds. We're all going, what the heck? What happened to him? So anyway, he cut 2 pylons on the north side, and he didn't even know it. Mark, you cut 2 pylons. No, I didn't. So anyway, so it was pretty funny. All right, so let's see here. Okay, so here's the course again. So now we're all qualified. We're getting ready to go racing. So there's a picture of Bunny. Super, super fun up there. I mean, I just can't say enough about it. So anyway, that's kind of the fun one. So out of almost 70 years of racing, there were only 243 race pilots. That's like 3 to 4 a year, something like that. So it was a pretty exclusive club. We were pretty happy to be part of it. Okay, so another kind of comment about Reno that's interesting. You know, if you're flying at Palm Springs and you have a problem and you call a Mayday and land at Palm Springs, what's the next 4 hours of your life going to be? Paperwork, right? Phone calls, FAA, all the stuff involved. At Reno, Maydays are free. And what they mean by that is if your airplane, if it runs rough, if you think it's running rough, any reason you want to, race 62 is a Mayday, you pull up, you come around, you tell race control where you're going to land. And if you tell them and you communicate in that way, you've got a 1 minute promise. No matter where you are on that airport, if you call where you're going, fire, race, crash, rescue, all those people will be there to help you out if you need it. A 1 minute promise. So that's a super nice thing. There was a guy in a Lancer who caught on fire. He was having electro troubles, caught on fire. And he didn't tell anybody what he was doing. He's just kind of flying around. Went for a runway just to make a runway with no communication. Airplane burned up. He's fine. Airplane burned up because he landed. They were guessing he's going to go to 1.4 based on the wind. He went to like 3.6 way off in the boonies by the guard shack, and airplane burned up because he didn't tell them where to be. So anyway, that was a really important lesson for us. So. All right, so when we're racing, I'll take you through a little bit of this. So when we're racing, we actually do what's called it's an air start basically. And so there's a T-33 pace plane. Everybody takes off, forms up on the pace plane. We go around the mountain on the west side of the facility, come downhill. There's actually lights on the guide pylon now, which is great because you used to come down the chute maybe on a day with some fire smoke. Didn't really even know where you're going. You know, so the pace plane pulls up, then the racers have to find the course. So we've got these great lights now. So you just find the light and you're good to go. We join up on the T-33. Let's see here. Oh, okay, deadlines. Okay. So a couple comments about actually flying the course. So these red stripes right here, these are the out of bounds areas that used to not exist. But because of development and everything else, they now have all these things monitored. They also monitor altitude. They had an accident in 2012. So now the goal guys can only go 250 feet off the deck. And they have people with these optical things all over the airport. And if they see an airplane within this little like a sight almost, then they'll disqualify that airplane. And so you think about that. If you got 2 or 3 airplanes in a corner and you're rolling up, the highest guy there can't be over 250 feet. So it's pretty scary. They did come up with a thing called an escape maneuver. So for example, you're coming down, they call it the valley of speed where it says 109. So if you're coming down here and there's a big clump of airplanes and you're worried about not making the corner, going across where the bottom stripe is, you can do what's called an escape maneuver. You can pitch up to 1,500 feet. You can go behind the grandstands and come back down the course over there on the east side. So you probably lose some time, but if you're worried about hitting somebody or getting cobbled up with altitude restriction, that's what you do is escape maneuver. Okay, so a typical day of racing. So after a while, it almost feels like Groundhog Day. Remember that movie where everything's the same every day? So we're up at 6, we're out the airport by 6:30, pilot brief, what time are you gonna race, get the airplane ready to go, and you go out and have your day. After about day number 10, I mean, you know it's Saturday or Sunday, but it's a blur. You initially think, I'm going to be up there 11 days. That's such a long time. Next thing you know, it's like you're going home tomorrow. It goes so fast. You can't even believe it. So, okay. So it's an interesting process. It's really exciting when you're actually going out to race. So imagine this. You've got a start line. All the airplanes are lined up. Get your engine started. And then you taxi out in the order of your pole position. So you taxi out, you go down, you all line up, wingtip to wingtip. You do your run up. The jet comes by. Usually Steve Hinton's flying it, and he stops kind of in front of each airplane. You have to give him a thumbs up so he knows you're ready. When everybody thumbs up, he launches, and then every 7 seconds, one of the unlimiteds goes. And so you're trying to get in the air, and you're trying to figure out where he's going to be. And you can always tell the new guys from the old guys. The old guys, which I consider myself after my 6th year, I would take off, the jet's over there, I would make a 180, and I would head over here. Because by the time I got there, that's where the jet was going to be. Because what you don't want to do is be tail end Charlie trying to catch the flight, right? You see that all the time. Guys up here trying to catch the flight. I'd go to the corner up over here, and I'd just get on the perch. Here they come. Boom. Get right in position. Piece of cake. No anxiety. I mean, these guys haven't chased the thing. They're just flogging their airplane. Crazy. All right. So let's see here. We talked about starting it up. Yeah, I think the form up is one of the most dangerous parts of the whole race. So you got all these guys, you got 7 guys, you know, some guys are trying to get in their spot, they can't find the spot. So it's pretty crazy. So anyway, let's see here. The words we love to hear from Steve Hinton are, gentlemen, you have a race. He goes down, he pitches up, and we're just going. And it's absolutely the most fun you can ever imagine. All right, so that's a picture of what it looks like at the start of the race. So that's Steve in the T-33. I think I'm the second airplane right there. And there's going to be 6 or 7 airplanes all abreast going all across the valley. And then so we start downhill, we're probably 400, something like that. And you know, Bunny's just screaming along, going, having a great time. So we do 6 laps on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We do 8 laps on Sunday. And let's see here, talk about the altitude rating. Yeah, and so it's fun that the crew marks down our lap times. And so during the week, you're trying to go faster and faster. This last year, we put a spray bar in Bunny, because if you can keep the coolant door closed on a Mustang, you pick up almost 10 miles an hour. So the idea is you fool the thing by spraying water on the radiator. And so it thinks it's cooler, so it closes the door. And so you can go faster. Only problem was, this was our first year, we kept running out of water. I had a tank behind me. It was like 16-gallon tank. So you're trying to give it the right amount of water, but not too much, because water's heavy, right? So we're carrying 150 pounds of water. And so, but while it worked, it was super effective. We get like 4 laps out of 6, just hauling, and all of a sudden, airplane starts slowing down, out of water. Doors opening again. But anyways, they have some nice pictures here. So that's kind of what it looks like when you're coming around the first lap. You know, everybody's you know, kind of right in there having a great time. You're trying to find your line, trying to find the pylons, and you know, we're going like 330, 340. The fastest guys are going like 500. So they're going 130, 140 miles an hour faster than we're going. I'm having a hard time finding the pylons. I can't imagine going almost 500 what it'd be like. I mean, you're looking a mile down the road trying to find the next pylon. So this is just some stuff about Bunny's power. We run 46 inches and 2,700 RPM. The fun thing about that is that's a nice bronze power setting. It's not going to harm the engine. It can run that way all day, supposedly. On Sundays, how many of you guys know Fred Bell? Okay, so Fred's the executive director, right? So he comes up and he says, if you need a little more power, you can run more power if you want to. But the whole goal is to get the airplane up there, bring it home safely. So having your boss tell you, hey, you can run more power if you want to. It's like, okay, Fred, yeah, whatever. But anyway, we're in the air like 8 or 9 minutes. That's all it is to go. See, we're going like 54 miles on the first 3 days. We're using 40 gallons of gas in 8 minutes. I mean, it's just unbelievable. It's just hard to believe that would be the case. Anyway, as you're flying in the race, they have flags on the ground that communicate what's going on. So they've got green flags and black flags, yellow flags. And the one that comes up so fast you can't believe is the white flag. The white flag means last lap. And so you're out there, you have no idea what lap you're on. You're trying to find guys, you're trying to pass guys, you're so dialed in, adrenaline's flowing. And next thing you see a white flag, what? Like, how can that be already? So you go around and get the checkered flag. And then you pull up in the air for what they call the cool down lap. So anybody know what the cool down lap is for? I always thought it was for the airplane. You know, get the power out of it, let it slow down, let it cool down. No way, it's for the pilot. Because when you pitch up, your hands are doing that. There's so much adrenaline, you can't even believe it. I mean, you're not chicken. You're just like, the adrenaline is just making your hands crazy. So you're trying to drink water and just take a breath, slow down. And then when you come around the land, and we're landing at 120 miles an hour, it feels like you're crawling. It's like, is my airspeed indicator working here? Because you've been on the ground with all this ground rush for like the last 10 minutes, right? So anyway, we got a couple thousand feet, you know, make a few orbits, come on down and land, and it's all super good. See, we actually have 3 different grades of fuel we can buy up there. You can run the 100 low lead, which is kind of the go back and forth fuel. You can buy 130, 145, or 160 octane if you're really running a real fire burner airplane. You can run the 160 octane, and so that's pretty cool. So anyway, you know, back in the days when I was younger, I would be up till midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. During race week, I'm in bed snoring by 9 o'clock at night. Unbelievable. Just the life of the party, right? Anyway, so there's a picture of Bunny going by the pylons. There's my son, Tommy. He came up to help out. The guy in the little pink suit, that was his birthday in the pit. So we do have a lot of fun up there as well. And that was our team from 2017. And there's probably 8 or 9 people that are very busy helping us. We have mechanics, we have guys that are doing the fueling, we have a lot of people, you know, moving the airplane around and so forth. So that's the flight line a couple years ago. So Polly, of course, is Palm Springs airplane also. Bunny, the next airplane over was flown by Mike Flieger, one of our pilots. So anyway, it's just a super fun time. We really enjoy it. And we're always trying to mentor people that haven't been doing it as long as we have. We got to actually race 6 years. So it's 2017 all the way up to 2023. 2023 was the last year at Reno. They're trying to find some new locations to maybe have another set of races. So yeah, so let's see, somewhere in here. So here we are. So these are locations they're looking at for another Reno. And I've been hearing rumors Thermal's looking pretty good. So, you know, they want hotel nights for capacity, they want places for all the food and everything else. Probably one of the better places to have the races from the racer standpoint is Wendover, Nevada, but you got to stay in Salt Lake City, which is 80 miles away. So that's probably not going to work out too well. Anyway, so a couple more pictures. And there's our friend Bunny right there, and that's all I have. So thanks very much for listening. Appreciate it.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Can you comment on the latest signature on the tail?
On the latest signature.
No, the latest signature.
Oh, I do. Yes, he is the let's see, General Brown. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Great question. So, okay. So here's the deal. So he's asking about the latest signature on Bunny. In October, November, I think November, Bunny went back to Washington D.C. And there was a change of command going back there at the Secretary of the Air Force, Secretary of Army level, and General Brown is now the Secretary of the Air Force. He signed Bunny's tail, and so the airplane was taken back there for that. He's an Afro-American gentleman, loves the Tuskegee history. So Fred Bell said, "Hey, we're taking the airplane back there for that event." And Patrick Nightingale, my other brother from another mother, flew the airplane all the way back there and did a great job. And thank you for reminding me of that. That's a great story. So that's another connection that Fred has achieved for the museum. So fantastic. Very good. Yes, sir. I did not know Bob Pond. I saw him at Chino over the years, but I never really got to know him. Yeah, yeah. Bob Pond, by the way, was a benefactor and the museum founder back in the day. Yes, sir.
Just sort of for everybody's benefit, Tom, and I think Patrick, I'm not sure, but somehow with Fred and all these guys flying the airplane, they conned Microsoft into including Bunny and Man of War in Microsoft Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, I believe it is. It is now at the Air Museum upstairs in our 4 large screen fed by Xbox. So if you want to fly like Tom in the Reno air races, you can actually go up and fly it in that simulator. And it's the actual livery and everything. It's really a fun experience. And I run it up there sometimes. So come on and see me. But anyway.
Very good. Yeah. Thanks, Bob. Thanks very much. Any other questions I could try and answer before we go? Yes, sir.
Well, this one's unfair because you probably can't answer it.
Okay.
There's a direct link between the P-51 and the Apache helicopter.
Okay.
And what it is those who've heard me talk about the Apache, we had a fly-off against Bell. We had twice the vertical rate of climb maneuverability. It's a fantastic attack aircraft.
Yeah, microphone working? That's
No.
And what happened was, the chief engineer and program manager on the Apache started on North America, on the Mustang.
Okay.
And that's why the Mustang and today's Apache is such incredible.
So what his comment is that the Apache helicopter has some design input and expertise by North American engineers that worked on the Mustang. And so the Apache helicopter has a lot of great attributes because of that. So, and on the performance side. So yeah, super good. All right. Anybody else have any questions? Yes, sir. Bob.
I had the great honor of having Bob Friend in our C-47 flying the Camarillo airship. And I had some time with him and I said, Colonel, tell me about Bunny. Tell me about this girl on your airplane. And he said, oh, she was a real bitch.
What?
Walked around the block. She cheated on me while I was gone.
Oh, no. Oh, that's a good one. Okay. All right. Very good. All right. Well, hey, thanks everybody. Appreciate your time. Yeah.
Wait. So we have a little gift for Tom. Thank you for great talk.
Oh, thank you very much.
Great talk.
Thanks.
We have a poster over here. If you would sign it on your way out, we'll give that to Tom. We'll have a meeting next month on the fourth Thursday again. And I think that's it. So thanks for coming.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, anyway, thank you very much.
so much.
Thank you. I think that was, I think that was okay. I think it was more just the microphone was just not, no, we're good. Hey, thanks for recording all the AV stuff, Max. Appreciate it.